Here's a completely different plot version for your story title, written in narrator style and ready for a YouTube storytelling video. Have you ever said something kind to someone, never realizing it would completely change their life? Sometimes a few sincere words can touch a heart that has been hurting for years. What happened to one hardworking single dad and a lonely billionaire woman proves that kindness can open doors that money never can. When he told her, "Any man would be lucky to marry you," her unexpected reply stopped him in his tracks and changed both of their lives forever. Before we begin, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Kindness Paradise, and leave a comment below. Your support helps us share more heartwarming stories that remind us how powerful kindness can be. Now let's begin today's story. Ethan Brooks was a single father living in a small town in Colorado. Life had been difficult since his wife passed away 5 years earlier. Since then, Ethan had devoted every part of his life to raising his 10-year-old son, Noah. He worked long hours as a landscaper. His hands were rough from years of hard work, and his back often ached after spending entire days outdoors. But every evening, no matter how tired he was, he came home with a smile for Noah. To Ethan, his son was everything. One spring morning, Ethan received an unusual job assignment. His landscaping company had been hired to redesign the gardens surrounding a massive estate owned by one of America's most successful billionaires. Her name was Charlotte Bennett. Charlotte was famous across the country. She owned several businesses and was known for donating millions to charities. Newspapers often called her one of the most powerful women in America. When Ethan arrived at the estate, he was amazed. The property seemed endless. Beautiful fountains sparkled in the sunlight, and perfectly trimmed gardens stretched in every direction. For several weeks, Ethan worked there alongside his crew. One afternoon, while planting flowers near the main house, he noticed Charlotte sitting alone on a bench overlooking a lake. She wasn't talking on her phone. She wasn't meeting with executives. She simply sat there staring at the water. Something about her expression caught his attention. She looked sad. Over the following days, Ethan occasionally saw her sitting in the same place. Always alone. Always thoughtful. One evening, a sudden thunderstorm rolled in. Most workers rushed home, but Ethan stayed behind to secure some equipment. As he hurried toward the storage shed, he noticed Charlotte still sitting by the lake. Rain had already begun falling. Without hesitation, Ethan grabbed an extra umbrella and walked over. "You'll catch a cold sitting out here," he said with a friendly smile. Charlotte looked surprised. Most people treated her carefully because of her wealth and status. This man simply sounded concerned. She accepted the umbrella and thanked him. That simple moment led to a conversation neither expected. Over the next hour, they talked while waiting for the storm to pass. Charlotte asked about his family. Ethan spoke proudly about Noah. Then he asked about her life. For the first time in years, Charlotte spoke honestly. She explained how success had brought enormous responsibility. Every day she made decisions affecting thousands of employees. She attended endless meetings, charity events, and business conferences. People surrounded her constantly. Yet she often felt completely alone. "I know it sounds ridiculous," she said quietly. "Most people think money solves every problem." Ethan nodded. "But sometimes," Charlotte continued, "I wonder if people even see me anymore. They see the billionaire. They see the businesses. They see what I can do for them. But very few see the person behind all of it." Ethan listened carefully. There was genuine sadness in her voice. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Ethan smiled warmly. "Charlotte, any man would be lucky to marry you." The words were simple, honest, completely unexpected. Charlotte stared at him. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then tears filled her eyes. Ethan immediately felt nervous. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." Charlotte shook her head. When she finally spoke, her reply stunned him. "Ethan, you're the first man who's ever said that without caring about my money." The rain continued falling softly around them. Charlotte wiped away a tear. "Most compliments I receive come with expectations attached. People want something. Business opportunities. Investments. Access. But you said it because you meant it." Ethan didn't know how to respond. He had simply spoken from the heart. That night, they parted ways. Ethan assumed it was the end of their friendship. But he was wrong. A few weeks later, Noah's school announced that budget cuts would eliminate several programs, including music, art, and after-school activities. Parents were devastated. Many children depended on those programs. Noah especially loved the music club. When Ethan heard the news, his heart sank. The community organized meetings, fundraisers, and petitions, but the amount needed was enormous. Then something incredible happened. One Monday morning, school officials called a special assembly. Students, parents, and teachers gathered in the gymnasium. There, standing beside the principal, was Charlotte Bennett. The room filled with whispers. Charlotte stepped forward and smiled. She announced that she would fully fund every threatened program for the next 5 years. The crowd erupted into applause. Teachers cried. Parents hugged one another. Children cheered. Ethan stood silently in the back of the room. Charlotte glanced toward him and smiled. Later that day, he thanked her. But Charlotte shook her head. "No," she said softly. "Thank you." Ethan looked confused. "For what?" "For reminding me that kindness still exists." Over the next year, Charlotte became deeply involved in the community. She funded scholarships. She helped local families struggling with medical bills. She supported small businesses recovering from difficult times. Yet despite everything she gave away, people noticed something different. Charlotte seemed happier, more alive, more connected. One afternoon, she explained why during a community event. "Success means very little if you have nobody to share it with," she told a group of volunteers. "Real happiness comes from helping others and building genuine relationships." Ethan couldn't have agreed more. As time passed, Charlotte became a close family friend. She attended Noah's school concerts. She joined community volunteer projects. She laughed more than she had in years. One evening, while watching the sunset over the same lake where they first spoke, Charlotte turned to Ethan. "You changed my life with one sentence." Ethan laughed. "I don't think it was that powerful." "It was," she replied. "You reminded me that my value isn't measured by my wealth. You reminded me that kindness and sincerity still matter." Ethan smiled. "And you reminded me that even people who seem to have everything sometimes need someone who truly sees them." The two sat quietly as the sun disappeared below the horizon. Neither knew what the future would hold. But both understood an important truth. Every person carries hidden struggles. Every person longs to be valued. And sometimes the greatest gift we can offer isn't money, power, or success. It's kindness. It's listening. It's treating someone like a human being when the rest of the world only sees a title, a job, or a bank account. So if today's story touched your heart, remember this lesson. A kind word may seem small. A sincere compliment may seem ordinary. But to someone who feels unseen, it can mean everything. Never underestimate the power of kindness. Because one heartfelt moment can change a life, heal a wounded heart, and create ripples of goodness far beyond anything we can imagine. And that is exactly how a single dad's simple words changed a billionaire's life forever. I'd be happy to help. Here's the complete storytelling script in plain English, with no headings inside the story and written as a narrator-style video script. Have you ever met someone who seemed to have everything in the world, yet carried a loneliness no one could see? What if one simple sentence, spoken from the heart, could change 2 lives forever? Today's story is about a hardworking single dad, a powerful billionaire woman, and a conversation neither of them expected. What happened after he told her, "Any man would be lucky to marry you," left him completely stunned, and revealed a lesson about kindness that touched everyone around them. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Kindness Paradise, and leave a comment below telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps us share more heartwarming stories about kindness and hope. Now, let's begin. Michael Carter was a single father living in a small town outside Chicago. Every morning, he woke up before sunrise, prepared breakfast for his 8-year-old daughter Emma, and headed to work. Life had not been easy for Michael. His wife had passed away years earlier after a long illness, leaving him to raise Emma alone. Money was always tight. He worked as a maintenance supervisor at a large office complex and often took extra shifts just to make ends meet. Despite the challenges, Michael had one quality everyone admired. He was kind. He smiled at strangers, helped elderly neighbors carry groceries, and always found time to encourage people who were struggling. Even when life felt unfair, he treated others with respect. One rainy afternoon, Michael received a call from his boss. A major charity gala was being held at one of the city's most luxurious hotels. The maintenance team was needed to help with setup and ensure everything ran smoothly. Michael agreed immediately. That evening, he arrived at the Grand Hotel. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. Elegant guests filled the ballroom. Expensive suits and designer dresses seemed to be everywhere. Michael felt slightly out of place in his work uniform, but he focused on doing his job. As he adjusted equipment near the stage, he noticed a woman standing alone by a large window. She looked familiar. Then he realized who she was. It was Victoria Hayes, one of the youngest billionaires in America. Victoria owned several successful technology companies and regularly appeared on magazine covers. She was known for her intelligence, leadership, and generosity. Yet something about her seemed different that night. While everyone else laughed and socialized, Victoria stood quietly by herself. As the evening continued, Michael noticed several guests approach her. Most wanted business opportunities. Others wanted photographs. Very few seemed interested in her as a person. Later, while carrying supplies through a hallway, Michael saw Victoria sitting alone near a balcony. She looked exhausted. Without thinking much about it, he walked over. "Long night?" he asked gently. Victoria looked surprised. Most people either ignored her or treated her like a celebrity. "Something like that," she replied with a tired smile. Michael sat down nearby. For the next few minutes, they talked like two ordinary people. They discussed family, life, and the challenges of responsibility. Victoria listened as Michael spoke about raising Emma alone. Michael listened as Victoria shared the pressures of leading thousands of employees and constantly living in the public eye. To his surprise, she seemed lonely. Very lonely. At one point, Victoria laughed softly and shook her head. "You know what's funny?" she said. "What?" "People think money solves everything." Michael nodded. "But it doesn't," she continued. "I have success, houses, businesses, private jets. Yet sometimes I come home to an empty house and wonder if anyone actually knows me." Her voice carried a sadness that surprised him. Michael looked at her thoughtfully. Then he said something completely sincere. "Victoria, any man would be lucky to marry you." For a moment, silence filled the hallway. Victoria stared at him. Michael immediately worried he had said the wrong thing. But then something unexpected happened. Her eyes filled with tears. When she finally spoke, her reply stunned him. "Michael," she said quietly, "you're the first person who said that without wanting something from me." He froze. Victoria wiped away a tear. "Most people see my money. Some see my companies. Others see opportunities. But very few see me." Michael didn't know what to say. She smiled gently. "Tonight, you treated me like a human being." Those words stayed with him. The gala ended, and Michael assumed he would never see Victoria again. But life had other plans. A few weeks later, Emma's elementary school announced it was struggling financially. Several important programs for students were at risk of being cancelled. Parents were worried. Teachers were frustrated. The future of many activities looked uncertain. One morning, a line of black vehicles pulled up outside the school. Parents gathered in confusion. Then Victoria Hayes stepped out. She walked directly into the school building. A few hours later, an announcement shocked everyone. Victoria had donated enough money to save every student program and fund new educational opportunities for years. The community celebrated. But that wasn't all. When reporters asked why she chose that particular school, Victoria simply smiled. "Because kindness matters," she said. Michael understood immediately. Weeks later, Victoria visited the school again. This time, she spent hours talking with students, teachers, and parents. She laughed with children, listened to concerns, and treated everyone with respect. Emma especially liked her. After one event, Emma tugged on Victoria's sleeve. "You're really nice," Emma said. Victoria smiled. "Thank you." Emma thought for a moment. "My dad says the nicest people are the strongest people." Victoria glanced at Michael. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then she laughed softly. "Your dad is a very wise man." Over the following months, a genuine friendship developed between Michael and Victoria. They supported community projects together. They volunteered at local events. They spent time helping families facing hardships. And through it all, They reminded each other that kindness could change lives in ways money never could. One evening, as they watched children play in a newly renovated community park, Victoria turned to Michael. "You know," she said, "that night at the gala changed my life." Michael looked surprised. "What did I do?" Victoria smiled. "You reminded me that my worth isn't measured by my bank account." Michael smiled back. "And you reminded me that even the strongest people need kindness." The sun slowly disappeared below the horizon as laughter filled the park. It was a simple moment, but it was also a beautiful one. Because sometimes the greatest gift we can give another person isn't money, power, or success. Sometimes it's simply seeing them, listening to them, valuing them, treating them with kindness when the world only sees labels. And that is the lesson from today's story. You never know what someone is carrying inside. The person who seems to have everything may be longing for understanding. The person who appears strong may need encouragement. A few sincere words can change a life. So wherever you are today, choose kindness. Offer a smile. Share a compliment. Listen without judgment. Because kindness costs nothing, yet its value is beyond measure. And sometimes, one heartfelt sentence can create a ripple that changes the world.